special guest and family over the last year or so, and it's a real pleasure to have James Terry, aka Grande Gato, and his whole company here, and he's a rapper, he's an entrepreneur, and he's from Winston-Salem. He's the head of Soulful Productions, and he writes music, he performs, he has a clothing line, merchandise, he's into film, into a variety of things. And you know, when I got to know him, I thought, you know, this is how you make a business.
Yes.
And it's not just you get one #1 hit and then cruise the rest of your life. It's
Right.
it's, you know, building a business. So so I invited him to come and share his experience, his advice. So I'm going to hand over to him. He's going to do a bit of a lecture, but there will be some time for questions. But first, let's just welcome the team to UNC.
We'll just go ahead and jump right into it. Let me just start out. This is called Entrepreneurship in Hip Hop. And like Mark was saying, it's just letting you all know that with music, you know, the business side, is important because as an artist, I used to run into, like, I was doing shows and, you know, I was getting paid shows, but it wasn't like consistent. You know what I mean? So when I was first starting, I was like, okay, I got to think of a way to generate some money because, you know, I got to, you know, eat, you know, I got to survive, I got to do things. So the way that I'm going to tell y'all how to do this is the way that I did it, and it works. And so I'm going to share this with you all now. So welcome to Entrepreneurship in Hip Hop. My name is James O'Terry Jr., but I stage name J.O.T, aka Grande Gato. So we're gonna jump right into this. When you're trying to do music, like I said, you wanna start up thinking of how am I gonna generate money? You know, when I first started out, I had just graduated from college. I went to NC State. Yes, I was in college like a lot of you all. How many of you all, when you graduate, want to get a full-time job? Okay, all right. Well, the reason why I asked that, because when I first started out, I said, okay, how can I use my degree to help me sit there and get to this music goal that I want? I said, okay, if I get a full-time job, I said, if I had a way to bank this money, because you know, usually when you get a full-time job, if you got an apartment or a house, that rent or that house rent is going to eat up some money. Then you got other things involved, you know, utilities, car, phone, you know, just eating, you know, groceries. So by the time you do just necessities, I mean, you know, your check is pretty much depleted. Depending on your full-time job. I know with mine, I started out as a full-time teacher. I was a BED teacher in the school system. They had a opening, I took it, dealing with at-risk kids. I was always wanted to work with the youth anyway. And I was like, okay, I can get paid, you know, full-time, benefits and all, you know, and work with these kids. So I said, okay, but I said, I need a way to bank this money because I said, if I get an apartment, a house, I'm not gonna be able to keep, you know, this $2,400 a month check, you know, that I was gonna be getting because it was $24,000 a year. So what I did, I asked my parents. I said, Mom, Dad, can I come back home? I said, I got a full-time job. I said, can I stay with you all and bank my money? And they were like, okay. They said, you know, so I was lucky. They said yes. So I went back home and I was taking that $2,200 a month. I was putting it in the bank, you know, because I didn't have any, you know, overhead. And then I was eventually able to sit there and get records pressed up. Because now my goal is still to be an artist. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to do music, but this is my means to an end to do it. I started pressing up records. I started pressing up CDs, you know, to get my music out there. And I used to tell people at this time when CDs was a thing, I know it's oblivious now, but you know, I've been doing this a minute. At the time, CDs were the thing, and I was taking it to the stations. I actually started getting radio play on different stations, hip hop stations, even got play on some R&B stations because I had, on some hip hop songs, I had R&B mixed in. Anybody familiar with like Method Man, Red Man, you know, Mary J. Blige, you know, all I need, you know, that kind of fusion going on. So sometimes you can get play on R&B stations. And then when I started getting radio play, I was like, okay, you know, I got my foot in the door, but I said, I still, you know, got to get some shows, you know, generated. So when you get radio play, you can go market yourself. Come on in. Yeah. I don't know if, yeah, see right there. Okay, cool. All right, but yeah, so I'm like, okay, I gotta get some shows, you know, cause I said this is the goal of most artists. You want the shows, you know what I'm saying? You want to sit there, show everybody what you can do. The radio was helping me do that because I had like what I call bargaining power with the, you know, club owners. I started performing. I even was performing too, not just at little venues like little small clubs and stuff, but also because of the nature of my music, which I was telling you, faith-based. I was also performing in churches. Churches were paying me to perform at youth events, you know, stuff like that when they had these big kind of gospel rap festivals, stuff like that. So anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to generate some shows. You know, I've got money in the bank to where I'm not a starving artist because I still have the full-time check coming in. You see what I'm saying? It's a process. It's not fast, you know, it was slow, but it was a process and it was building. So now that I was doing, you know, the shows, and that, like I said, I got through having the CDs and the vinyls, because that's what the DJs were, you know, taking you serious when you bring that. Then I said, okay, I've got to come up with a way, I said, for people to know my brand, you know, because, I mean, yeah, I was making a little name for myself, but what's going to make me known, like with Jay-Z is Rockefeller, you know, he had the Rock, you know, Rock Nation, all that. Now, you know, with Master P's No Limit, you know, anybody knows about Luke Records and Two Live Crew, they had, you know, their label. So, I mean, Scarface had Rap a Lot. I'm just naming, you know, throwing out people out there. But different people, and Queen Latifah had Flavor Unit, you know, that was her label. So different people, you know, they had brands. And when you saw their logo, you knew who it was. You know, it was identifiable. So I said, okay, I got to, you know, come up with a logo. So I thought about my company, Soulful, you know, faith-based. And I said, let me come up with a logo that represents that. So I said, I do music, came up with 2 records, and a little music scale. And the way I spell it is SOUL-FULL. My soul is full because I'm spreading good news through my music, you know, uplifting people. So I call it Soulful Productions. And I went out, got the logo registered with the trademark office. And it ran me about $500 to do that at the time, you know. And but at the same time, even though it was a big chunk of money, but like I said, what's helping me is I got that constant, you know, paycheck coming in from the teaching. All right, so if you have income coming in like that to kind of, you know what I'm saying, keep you afloat while you're trying to, you know, get yourself out there, it helps because even though I was getting paid for shows, my shows weren't consistent. So there's no way I would have been able, if I would just been dependent on music out there like that, I would have been one of those struggling artists, you know, if I would have been homeless, you know, and all that other, I mean, that's just reality, you know. But I had that plan, and I said, no, this will keep that from happening. Eventually, after I got my logo registered, I started sitting there putting it on product. When I started out, I was trying to think, what can I start putting my logo on to get people's attention? What do people like? I was like, bandanas. I said, bandanas are something that, you know, male and female like, young and old like, you know, and I mean, people can do anything with them. So I said, okay, let me try that. And I was getting my logo silk screen on bandanas. I was going around to different convenience stores, gas stations, asking them, hey, can I put this in there? You know, and try it out. And they were like, yeah, cool. You know, so I was fortunate enough to have a lot of them give me that chance to start out, and they started selling. I was selling for like, I think like, you know, $2 a piece back then. I would sell them out the trunk of my car, because I wasn't just doing stores, I would run into a lot of skateboarders on the streets. And skateboarders love bandanas. I'd have my box, and gosh, by the end of the day, sometimes I'd have half of them sold, because skateboarders, you know, they just come, hey, look, give me 2 or 3 different colors, you know. So, but anyway, this was helping me get my name out there, my brand, my logo, so that when people saw that logo, they knew who I was. And I was like, okay, it's starting to work. And even when I did news interviews, I made sure that I was always wearing, you know, something with my logo on it. Whether it was my bandanas. Then I started getting into toboggans. Toboggans was another kind of cheap avenue to where I could, you know, people could wear, you know, stuff with the logo, and it was, you know, something everybody could wear. You know, I was trying to think how to reach a lot of people, and so I started doing those. Those did okay. The bandanas did really well. Just thinking of different ways to, you know what I'm saying, get yourself out there, get an identifiable logo for yourself, so that people can be like, okay, I know, yeah, that's that person right here. That's important. And this built up to trying to get the product in stores now, because I was getting to the point where I was selling the bandanas, you know, pretty, like a lot of them pretty fast, and the toboggans too. So I said, okay, I need to put product in stores now, you know, like bigger stores. And so I said, I'm gonna need, you know, to invest more money, and I also put it on other things too, which leads into books. Books was another thing that I started thinking about. I said, you know, you always hear about, you know, people coming out with books, and, you know, I said, well, okay, well, let me try my hand at writing a book. You know, I was always good at writing anyway. And on the back of my book, you know, I was always putting my logo and stuff on. I was fortunate enough to put my book out there through a self-publishing company, and they gave me access to Barnes and Nobles and other stores, selling physical and both, ebooks, yeah. And so this was the first book I ever wrote. And for artists who are sitting there thinking, well, if I wrote a book, what would I write about? I wrote about what I was doing. I wrote about me starting up my company. I wrote about how I sat there and put out this CD, it had this songs on it, what each song meant. I talked about me sitting there, you know, selling the CDs, selling, you know, and just basically talking about myself, you know, letting people know about my career. And so that ended up leading into another book that was following up on the second part of my career, this book right here. And once again, logos, you know, people were, okay, we recognize this logo, we keep seeing this. And this started getting me a lot of major like interviews, you know, television interviews. I was getting every station you could think of was like, okay, we'll interview you, you know, and everything. And so now, I was getting more exposure by these, you know, the products, and my brand was getting more identifiable. I started making more money. So I said, okay, at this point, I need to go ahead and make a video. You know, I'm at the point now where I need something out like that, you know, every rapper has a video. So I was like, okay. And I shot a video, and I was fortunate enough to meet a movie company. They actually shot films. Now, I couldn't afford, even with my full-time job, what they were asking for a music video, because I think at the time they wanted, they said, well, we could shoot you one for $20,000. Like, that's a year, I was a year paycheck. I said, I can't do that. And I was like, but this is what's kind of funny. This is why I say you should always try though. Cause I was just having a conversation with the young lady that was asking me about what do you do when, you get those down moments. How do you keep on? I said, I keep trying. I mean, cause if you don't try, you know what's gonna happen. Nothing. But if you try, hey, you never know what can happen. And this is a perfect example of that. The guy saw basically what I was doing, my grind. He said, you know what? He said, I shoot a lot of rap videos. He said, but I don't have a clean one for my portfolio. He said, a lot of times I want to show people my portfolio, but he says I don't have one that's kind of, appropriate. And so he was like, I tell you what I'll do. He said, I shot several films during my career. He said, I'll take the empty film pieces on each reel. He said, I'm gonna piece together your reel. And he said, cause your video is like 3 minutes. He said, I'm gonna piece you together a 5-minute reel. I was like, cool. So next thing I know, and he didn't even charge me, I think he charged me like $2,500 for that, which I could afford that. You see what I'm saying? Cause I was working, it took my month's check, but I still could afford it. And it was on film, just like the movies. And so I was like, okay, cool. I got this video, and in the video I had, like youth from the neighborhood, the youth that I was teaching, they were like, hey, we're part of a real video, They had the bandanas that I was making, they were showing them in the video. So I said, okay, now that I got that part done, now's the hard part. I got to try and get on one of these video stations. The MTV, BET, at the time, they were the ones that were, going. So I said, okay, let me try. I said, I'm an indie label, no major backing, I said, all right, but I said, I know what's gonna happen if I don't try nothing. So I called up BET, and I just so happened to get in touch with the head lady. And I was like, hey, my name is J.O.T, aka GRANDE GATO, Christian rapper, positive rapper. I said, I want to send you a hip hop video I have called Press On. I said, do I send it on DVD? She was like, no, we don't do DVD. She said, we do beta SP tape. I had never heard of beta SP tape. And she was like, you have to get it put on that. She said, that's the standard format that we use in the industry. So I said, okay. And I said, well, if I get that on that tape, I said, and send it to you. I said, do you think it's a possibility you all could play it? She said, well, I'm not gonna make any promises, but she said, get it on that tape, send it to me, see what can be done. Once again, trying, Now I went to the store, like I said, I don't know anything about beta SP or SP beta, whatever, I was like, I don't know anything about this. But I went to the audio store and I said, I need to get a video of mine on, I think it's beta SP tape, SP beta tape. They said, yeah, we sell those. I said, okay, how much is it? It says $50 a tape. I was like, God, $50 a tape. I was like, okay. And I said, but, when you're talking about your career, and like I said, I was working. So, I had income coming in, but the thing is, I'm like, gosh, I wish to start making a big return. I'm getting some return, but I need a big return. But I said, okay, let me go ahead and get this tape. And I put my video on it. And then I had to take it to somebody who actually had one of those machines that could record on that kind of tape. So you're talking about another $400 or $500. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm about to spend $1,000 on this 2 tapes. I got a backup car. I got more than one. I got 2. And I said, and I don't even know if anything's gonna happen from this. But I said, you know what? I'm gonna try. So I got them to record the video to the tape, sent it to the woman. I called her up just to make sure she got it. I didn't want to bug her, but I was like, hi, this is, J.O.T. GRANDE GATO called you. I just wanted to see if you got the tape, that I sent you with my video present. She said, I did. She said, I got it. She said, I'm going to look at it. And she said, I'll, see if we air it. She said, we'll go ahead and do it. And I was like, okay, I let it go. Now, I didn't never hear anything back from her. So I was thinking, God almighty, it's like another letdown, Then I was walking down the street one day and this guy saw me. He said, hey, he said, cause he recognized the logo. He said, you are on TV. And I was thinking, well, maybe he's talking about one of my local news interviews on the local station. You know, I wasn't thinking ET. And he said, no, he said, you were in a video, he said, with some kids. He said, y'all had been down. And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, you saw it? He's like, yeah. He said, I saw it on BT. He said, they've been playing. This is why I try and tell you, when you think nothing's gonna happen, always try. I mean, what do you got to lose? I mean, you know, you try with everything else, you come to college, you know, and in today's economy, you know, you might not get a job right off. But if you don't go to college and don't try, well, you know what's gonna happen. You know, the likelihood of you succeeding is, you know, it's kind of very slim. So that's why I said, you gotta try. All right, so that leads me to the next point. All right. And I want to really stress that you got to be patient too. This wasn't an overnight process. Just to give y'all a little timeline of how long this took. I graduated from NC State, May 1996. I started up my company in 1997, but I didn't have anything just but a name, you know. And then I told you I had to go through that process of registering the logo and all this stuff. So I mean, it was a process all along, starting out with the bandanas, like we were talking, starting out small, you know, and just building, you know, and then it went from bandanas to, you know, books, and then, like I said, the vinyl and CDs and all that stuff, to eventually, we ended up, you know, just becoming bigger. And after we got in a video, I started getting bigger shows. We even started performing outside of North Carolina area, Miami, Florida. I was performing down there. I got invited by Luke of Two Live Crew to come down to the Moja Festival and perform. We kept doing Miami, and I made some contacts with a lot of Cubans down there. Next thing you know, I was performing overseas in Cuba. So see, I mean, it didn't happen overnight. You know, it was a process, and it's one with ups and downs. I mean, you know, you don't have those times when you want to give up. You're like, man, forget this. But you can't sit there and listen to yourself at those moments. You have to ignore yourself at that moment and be like, no, I'm gonna stick to this. You know, I started, I'm gonna finish it. And eventually, after the Cuba show and everything, opportunity came up to do some shoes. I found out about a company out of Italy, and they were, you know, like, you know, if you are trying to do your own shoe, if you come up with the design and you come up with, I think it was like $400, they were like, you know, we can sit there and help you come out with a shoe that's actually marketable. You can actually, you know what I'm saying, sell it online, and it advertises our brand. So now this is a long ways from bandanas. You know what I'm saying? Shoes are a long ways from bandanas. But that's what I'm saying. It didn't just happen overnight. And things, like I said, we started to get bigger. And then eventually, just recently, I was approached with the opportunity to be in this movie, like I was telling you all about. And the movie, like I said, it was directed by Burgess Jenkins. And I didn't even know they were gonna have some other stars in there too. Vonnie Bristow from Snowfall. He also played in, I don't know if y'all seen the Michelle A documentary. He played Ice Cube in that documentary. But to make a long story short, I said, okay, you know, this is a long ways from how I started out. And then that's what eventually led up to the vinyl right here that I was showing you all, that went along with the movie. And it's out in stores now. Still promoting the brand and everything, but now instead of selling stuff out the trunk of my car, I actually have an office space now, based out of Winston. So
that's in Robin Hood Road.
That's right, it's in Robin Hood Road. My son's got his chair and desk over there in the corner, and wife has her desk and chair over there in the other corner, and we all just in there, and we're still going at it, but at a whole nother level now. And so that's why I wanted to tell you all, it took more than just me rapping on the mic to make it. And I left out this part, I didn't get a chance to tell you all. Once I got invited down to Miami, I quit my job. Cause I had already had, I had gotten to a point where I could, you know what I mean? So I wasn't a struggling artist. I had actually gotten to that point where I was actually making enough money now to where I was able to support what I was doing. But now don't get me wrong, not rich or nothing, but I mean, I can maintain the level of life that I'm living right now and enjoying it. You know what I'm saying? But and that's what I was telling Mark about. A lot of times I think everybody, sometimes we see on TV, they kind of push that dream of, millions and billions and all this stuff, which is great for some who are able to do that. But there is another lane that you can go, and you may not make the millions and the billions and all that, but if you're really trying to do your craft and you're trying to do it, and make some money for a living, then you can do that. It's obtainable. And that's why I'm trying to let everybody know and let you know how to do it, kind of giving y'all the blueprint, I guess you could say, of how I did it. And this is what works. And I just wanted to let y'all know that you can do it. But the main thing I gotta stress to you, it takes time, but if you got the patience and you just hold on, and you know what I'm saying? And like I said, most of y'all are trying to get a full-time job anyway after you graduate. So this is not too much of a deviation from what you're trying to do. It's like you're tweaking your plan a little bit. Instead of going out to get a house, first time buyer or whatever, apartment, whatever, ask whoever, your parents, grandparents, guardian, you stay, you know what I'm saying? Hey, can I stay with you and bank my money? And I'm trying to start my business, and hey, you never know what can happen from that little help, that, that entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah, I mean, I'm living proof of that. So I hope that was, informative and helpful to anybody that was thinking about doing that. And y'all feel free to ask any questions if y'all have any. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to think how to word the question. So I guess how, if at all, like has your promotion and I don't know, how you get yourself out there changed over time? Because obviously in the early 2000s, it was, you could make a phone call to BET and get your music out there. Mm-hmm. But now I guess it's a little different with the internet and stuff. So how has your promotion or style of business strategies changed over time?
I'm glad you mentioned that. You noticed a lot in my earlier conversation, I was talking about I call it, I don't call anybody now. I mean, everything is done through social media, the internet. I mean, that's pretty much how I started getting overseas trips, just communicating with the club owners over there in Cuba, stuff like that through the internet. The movie deal, email, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. It changed big time. Phone was the old way of doing it. Yeah, so now everything I do is just strictly, internet. Yeah, so social media, internet. That's me and Mark. We connected. Didn't even know each other, but crossed paths. And what's funny is me and Mark were talking. Applejuice Kid, who helped found B-Lab with Mark. Mm-hmm. Me and Applejuice go way back. He produced one of my tracks.
For the cancer song.
That's right, yeah, for the cancer song.
Now you perform at the field.
That's right, because I'm a cancer survivor, for those who don't know. So I made a cancer rap song. Applejuice did the live drums on it and everything, because he's a percussionist. But he produces now. He produced for Wale. He produces for Tiana Taylor? Yeah, Tiana Taylor, and some other people like that now. And he even produced for Sizzler over there in Jamaica. Yeah, so he's doing his thing. But so see, internet is how this came to be. So yeah, that was a very good question. Yeah, it's changed dramatically. That's how I do it. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah.
So I'm sure earlier in your career, when there are opportunities, you take them. But the later you got into like, or like the further you got into where you're like going, like how did you know when to say no? Like how did you know like, okay, this I'm gonna take, but maybe not this one. I'm gonna pass up on this, but I want this. Like how do you know which one? Or like what did you do to like kind of observe and like identify different opportunities that you wanted?
That's a good question. I'm gonna use this one as an example because me and my wife, we joke about this one a lot, but it's true. When I was about to go to perform in Cuba, me and my wife, I also got invited by a DJ to come and perform the night before we were about to fly out. Now, they were offering, nice amount of money, but it was in a very bad area. And
you
I was
didn't
like,
want to mess up what you doing just because you want to help somebody else.
And to be frank, I did not want to get shot. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, the money sounds, but I'm like, that's a very bad area. And I'm about to go there. I was like, nah, and I said no. I said it very quickly. And but I wasn't trying to be mean or like conceited, thinking, no, I can't do your event. It's not that. I mean, I value my life, I mean, yeah, I love music, but I'm not gonna put my life or my family's life in danger, even though it may be, some good money involved with the event. So, my whole thing is trying to be anti-violence, So I mean, yeah, so I not just try and rap about it, but I try to, live it as well. So yeah. Good question. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious. So, you're more of like a Christian rapper. So, do you think it's more difficult to find shows or promotions as a Christian rapper compared to like, I don't know, other rappers who may be more vulgar?
Yes and no. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, yes and no, but I'll tell you why. Just being a music artist, period, is hard. No matter what genre. I mean, it's hard. Being a Christian rapper / positive rapper, sure. I mean, cause if I say, okay, mainstream wasn't really kind of like looking for that until you had, let's say like, Lecrae came along. Anybody know about Lecrae?
He's a Spanish Christian artist.
Well, no, he did a song with a Spanish Christian, but yeah.
Funky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was gonna say, but yeah, cause it was hard, but I would just say with any music artist, it's hard. Cause see, I've had friends that did different genres for me, and they had it hard too. You know what I mean? And some of them didn't even fare, as well as I did. So, I'm gonna just say, yeah, it was hard for me because, I think when mainstream's not really looking for that, and not so much even Christian, just when they're not looking for something, they're not going, it makes it a lot difficult. So but that's why I had to kind of create that own lane. Because I was like, okay, I don't have that mainstream support, but if I do this and do this, I can get myself out there and get people to know who I am, and it ended up working. So, but but it's hard, yeah. And but one thing I will say that really helped me out, and this was the point of this lecture, was the entrepreneurial side, because it kept money coming in. And I'm gonna just give y'all a very quick example. Just 2 weeks ago, some older vinyl, which I had out with my friends, and these were the ones I told you about. They didn't necessarily do the same type of music I did. They did other, but it was all still hip hop. These albums right here, I went to check on them, and this was like 2017. This one's like 2015. This one, DJ Luke Skywalker was on. I went in the store and I was like, just checking, because you have to check your product. They're not gonna tell you, hey, you got money. They're like, no, we're doing you a favor by having it in the store. You can come and check on your stuff. So I went in there to check, and just I said, well, how did I do that? Sell anything? He said, yeah. He said, he said you got like about $300-400, this is my old stuff, not even my new stuff. So see, you can have money coming in, you know, from stuff if you do the entrepreneurial side. And it makes up for the lack, in my case, the lack of consistency at the time with my shows. Cause like I said, I was getting good shows and it was nice money, but if it's not consistent though, you know what I'm saying? So this makes up for it. And that's the whole purpose of trying to, you know, share this with you all so that if you all are aspiring to do music, you know, in whatever fashion, producing, rapping, you know, dancing, whatever, you know, you can do the business side, the entrepreneurial side. And you can sit there and, you know, just, you know, make up for that lack of consistent income. It helps out a lot. Because you think about it, you know, you got your stuff in about 10, 20 stores. And you might sell 300 at this one week. Next week you might sell 100, 200, another one. You know, but see, still money coming in. You're not a struggling artist. You're not, you know, broke. You're not making anything. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I'm trying to share with people. And like I said, and if you keep doing that, it builds over time because you're growing, your image is growing, you know, and so you're gonna get more shows and the whole nine, you know, sell more product. So yeah. But any other questions? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, when you were talking about your process when you were first getting recognized and getting started, you were like, all right, I hit this milestone and now I gotta make the video. And you're like, and now I gotta get stuff on the street. Did you know, like, by watching other people's stories, or there's someone trying to tell you what guide you? Just kind of figured it out all on your own?
That's a good question. There's two parts to that. I didn't have anybody like, right there, like, you know, literally in my face telling me, you know, James, you need to do it like this, you need to do it like that. But I was watching people, and Luke, who I mentioned, from Two Live Crew, even though like we did two different genres of music, but I watched how he did it because I remember when he first started, which I left this part out. I used to be a DJ. First started out as a DJ first before I got into rapping. And I used to play his records and stuff and other people's records. And I remember when he first started, New York hated him. Called him garbage, called him corny. They used to be harsh on him. And the only place that was really showing him any, you know, love was Florida, where he's from. Miami, and of course North Carolina too, we showed him love. But he sat there, and because he was an independent label, he would just market himself. He had that at the time it was Luke Skywalker. He got in a little lawsuit because of the name, obviously, so he had to change to Luke Records. But he used to go by Luke Skywalker, and he would promote it. I mean, everywhere you look, Luke Skywalker Records, and everybody knew his logo, everybody knew his name, you know. And even before his music like really hit, I mean, you knew who Luke was. And so I just kind of followed that blueprint. And then there was another rapper, Too Short, out of Oakland. He had his own label. He was independent, you know. I was watching how they were doing out the trunk of the car. Scarface from the Ghetto Boys, you know, stuff like that. I would just, like, these guys that I used to play, I would watch their careers too. And I was like, you know, even though it's a different genre, the business side is always gonna be the same. That's no matter what, whether it's Christian music, whether it's secular music, whether it's English music, whether it's Hispanic, you know what I'm saying? It's always gonna be the same. And so I followed kind of that same blueprint, even though my genre was different, and that's what helped me. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. Yeah.
So like when you're like trying to book shows or book venues, like how would you say you like the negotiation? Like, did you know take whatever at the beginning, or would you try to like propose different offers, or like were you just like willing to just do any type of show? Like, how did you negotiate that in your experiences over the years?
Okay. Let me make sure I understand your question right. Are you asking me, like, did I take on different types of genres of shows? Maybe is that what you're asking, or
just more so like what was your like process with like booking different shows?
okay, all right, yeah, okay, gotcha now. I did music, and I should have mentioned this too. I left this out. I do music in both English and Spanish.
Yeah.
So what I would do, I would market myself to both English and Spanish events. I would do a lot of Hispanic events. In Winston-Salem, they had Hispanic Festival, annual Hispanic Festival. I would do that. I even performed at Hispanic churches.
Central Christiana.
Yeah, Central Christiana. And then I kind of started marketing myself to Hispanic nightclubs. And this was kind of interesting because there was I actually did Artistica in Greensboro. And the guy, his name is last name Pascal. But him and his wife, Audra Pascal, she passed from cancer, but they actually wanted me to come in because his wife had cancer, and as I mentioned, I was cancer and I had a cancer song. But I was like, okay, I can do this cancer song, but by rapping Spanish too, I can kind of introduce, the club to my Spanish songs. And so I ended up doing that, and then next thing you know, I got a call from a Hispanic radio station, and they were like, hey, we want you to come up here to the station, because see, once you start doing clubs, the word gets out, and Hispanic radio station was like, yeah, come up here, we want you to, they would call me Grande Gato. That would be my stage name when I rapped in Spanish. When I rapped in English, it was J.O.T. But, so anyway, and that interview was just, 2 years ago? The one at Buenos Aires was it 2 years ago? It was Buenos Aires, it was 2 years ago.
You wasn't talking about that then.
Yeah. But that one
It
was...
was in 2022.
Yeah, sure was. So, yeah, a year ago. Yeah, and, it's...
So it was last year when
that's
you
right.
did that
See,
radio.
he remembers better than I do. But, yeah, so like I said, my approach, a lot of times I would get asked, like I said, by people to perform. But when I wasn't getting asked, I would be proactive too. I reached out to those, like I said, club owners in Cuba, because I was performing in Miami, and the people who owned the clubs in Miami were Cuban. And they were like, my friend owned the club, blah, 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 you ought to call him, da, 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 and y'all work that out. And so, yeah, and when I would call people, I would let them know, like with the Cuba club, I said, I performed in Miami for several years, performed my Spanish at nightclubs here. Also, I performed at the Emoji Festival for Luke. I performed my Spanish song, Parganar. And just picture myself. And they were like, okay, well, cool, yeah, okay, and then usually that's when it gets into how much do you charge and this and that, So, but yeah, so that's how I kind of did it, Yeah, some would be people requesting, and then some was proactive. Yeah, but good question. All right. And anybody else have any questions or?
Well, I have you have your boombox here, so what does that mean?
Yeah, we were gonna do a little something for y'all just to give y'all a little sample of the music. You know what I'm saying? So if y'all would bear with us for a minute, we'll go ahead and get that set up.
So I should give you my headphones?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and like I said, I perform now. When I first started, I was performing solo, but then I eventually met my wife. And the funny story behind how I met my wife, she worked with the public library. And so she had worked there for years, and I went in there one day because I was trying to get my books in the library. And these two books happen to be in the public library in Forsyth County in Winston-Salem. But, I saw her, and we got to talking, and I was like, I'm gonna show her my video, Yeah. So anyway, I showed her my video. And she was like, wow, you got a video? And I said, yeah, on BET, And so anyway, we went out and, hit it off, and eventually got married. And then we had our son,
And then I started doing music.
Yeah, that's right. And the funny thing with my wife, I didn't know she sang. See,
So
she didn't tell me that
at
right.
festivals and churches doing
That's right.
the Christian
See, he
music
knows
was
the
God
and,
to do.
but yeah, so we, we got together, and to bring it full circle with what we're talking about today, I always wanted to do a women's division of my company, Cause
It's
we had
Lady
Soulful.
Soul.
Yeah, Lady Soul, that's right. Cause we had Soulful and then we had Lady Soul.
And then my company, Teen Soul.
That's right, Teen Soul, that's right. And but I had actually with Lady Soul, I had actually started out with little socks and footies for women before I
Then
met
you
my wife.
like hoodies.
That's but little small
And
stuff.
tank
Yes,
tops.
embroidered socks.
And
with the
hats.
logo. That's right, there, Chris, and hats. And but
And
it's-
shoes.
that's right. And but yeah, so but eventually when she came on board, she took it further. You know what I mean? And because she knew what women wanted, you know, and everything, and she was, and see, she sewed too. I'm like, wow, she just came on, multi-talented, just doing all this stuff. She was sewing and singing, and you know, next thing you know, we were, you know, like doing the Soulful and Lady Soul stuff, and people started to associate, see, the Lady Soul with my wife. She was building up her name, her brand. You see what I'm saying? And then our son, like he was saying,
I build up Teen Soul.
that's right, built up Teen Soul, did his first solo show this
El
year.
Festival de Neo,
Yeah,
that's
but-
in Winston
Yeah,
Salem.
he did his first professional show this
If you
year.
want to see a picture of
See, he
the
promotes
show,
harder than me. But yeah, so but the main thing I'm saying is we do it as a team now. He promotes and he has his own shoe now, my wife. And yeah, well tell them about whether they can go to the website.
that you can go on www.soulfulproduction.com and there's a video link in the show El Festival de